Caitlin Clark got a little get back at Kelsey Plum.
She was taking a shot.
Could not help but to drag Caitlin Clark through the glass as she did it.
0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
The WNBA is on a hot streak. They're finally turning a...
What just happened has sent shockwaves across the entire WNBA. And wherever Kelsey Plum is right now, you can bet she's feeling it, because Caitlin Clark just took her apart in the most ruthless, calculated performance women's basketball has ever seen. I'm still processing it, because this wasn't simple revenge. It was a masterclass, a step-by-step lesson on how to outplay and completely expose someone who tried to drag your name through the mud. Let's be clear, Plum didn't just get beaten, she vanished. Before we dive into this total collapse, hit that like button if you're riding with Caitlin all the way, because once you hear what really went down, there's no way you'll still be siding with Plum.
You have sore losers and you have sore winners, and Kelsey Plum is both.
We want to blow them out. We're a lot better than them.
We're watching for the league. We're really watching for Caitlin Clark. Everyone's going to be making more because of Caitlin Clark.
Caitlin Clark is the one bringing in the numbers.
Well, there's one.
Let's go back to where the story really began, because this wasn't some random beef or minor disagreement. This ran deeper, driven by jealousy, subtle undermining, and one player trying to dim the spotlight of the biggest star the WNBA has ever seen. It all traces back to the WNBA All-Star Game, which was supposed to be about unity and celebrating the best of women's basketball. Instead, it turned into one of the most awkward, envy-soaked moments the league has witnessed. At the time, players were publicly supporting the Pay Us What You Owe Us movement, demanding fair compensation from the league. And to be clear, that cause is completely valid. These athletes deserve better pay. But this is where Kelsey Plum showed her true intentions and made what could go down as a massive miscalculation. Standing at the podium, with cameras rolling and the entire basketball world watching, Plum took a not-so-subtle jab at Caitlin Clark, carefully dodging her name, but making it obvious who the target was.
I'll tell, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
Or her actually making comments about Caitlin Clark's team not being at this meeting for the CBA.
She followed it up with a carefully crafted remark, suggesting that the players on Team Clark weren't truly involved in the movement. It was an obvious jab, aimed squarely at the league's pay negotiations and player activism. The audacity of it was unreal. She singled out the one player who has brought more attention, money, and mainstream visibility to the WNBA than anyone in its 28-year history, trying to paint her as selfish and out of touch with her fellow players. The attempt was so obvious, so calculated, and honestly so misguided that even casual fans could see straight through it. What makes the situation even more frustrating is the truth behind it. Clark wasn't even present at the All-Star Game. She was at home, recovering and dealing with her own situation. She had no obligation to take part in performative gestures just to prove her support for player advocacy.
Took a shot at Caitlin Clark during that whole thing about Team Clark wasn't very present for that.
To me, I thought that was a little dig at Caitlin. A lot of people definitely thought so.
Plum, she was taking a shot at Caitlin Clark's situation involving the Pay Us What You Owe Us.
She's quite literally transformed the entire landscape of women's basketball, bringing in millions of new fans, raising the sport's national profile, and helping make the WNBA financially relevant in ways it has never experienced before. And yet, despite all of that, Plum still had the nerve to question her commitment. The level of disrespect was staggering, but what came next made it even more compelling. The backlash was immediate and brutal. You could see it in Sabrina Ionescu's reaction during the press conference. The discomfort was impossible to miss as it became clear what Plum had just unleashed. Even analyst Stacey King didn't hold back, calling out how reckless it is to take aim at the league's biggest draw. And he was absolutely right. The numbers speak for themselves. Since Caitlin Clark entered the league, television ratings have exploded, merchandise sales have surged, ticket prices have jumped, and expansion fees have skyrocketed from $50 million to $250 million in record time. She's the WNBA's most powerful leverage in ongoing salary discussions, and Plum chose to publicly challenge the league's most valuable asset. And this is where Caitlin Clark proved she's more than just a star on the court.
But to say that Caitlin Clark didn't join in on the t-shirt discussion.
This week they wore t-shirts saying, making a statement, you better pay us. But instead of just leaving it at that, Kelsey Plum for LA had to take a dig at Caitlin Clark. Here she is.
The t-shirt, just United front was determined this morning, that we had a meeting for. And, not to tattletale, but 0 members of Team Clark were very present for that.
She's a strategic mastermind operating on a level most people don't even recognize, playing chess while everyone else is stuck playing checkers. Instead of firing back with a messy quote or getting dragged into a social media spat, Clark made the ultimate power move. She stayed silent. She let the quiet speak for her, continued dominating headlines without even touching the court, and waited for the perfect moment to respond. When that moment came, it landed with force. Not long after the controversy, Clark announced a massive global partnership with Nike, once again showing that elite brands are lining up and competing just to be associated with her. While Plum was focused on tearing her down, Clark was busy building her brand. The final strike came when Clark noticed Plum posting photos from a Nike event, despite being signed with Under Armour, Nike's biggest rival. That's when Clark dropped a perfectly timed, razor-sharp comment. Thanks for the Nike ad, and the internet exploded. Brands are lining up with blank checks, and Clark is earning well into 7 figures from endorsements alone. While some veteran players are still fighting for recognition, the corporate world clearly understands what certain critics still refuse to accept. Clark isn't just the future of the game, she's the present. She's the main reason this sport is finally gaining the respect, attention, and financial investment it has always deserved. Since that Instagram comment, Kelsey Plum has gone silent, likely realizing she picked a fight with someone operating on an entirely different level. The same player who tried to paint Clark as selfish and disengaged ended up being outmaneuvered by someone who understands that real influence doesn't need constant noise. It speaks through results. Clark's reach is so massive that even a subtle social media remark turns into headline news, while Plum's attempts to stay in the conversation barely make a ripple. But this goes beyond a personal dispute between two players. What we're witnessing is a wider effort by certain WNBA veterans to contain and control Caitlin Clark's rapid rise, and it's backfiring badly. Before Clark arrived, the league was struggling with low ratings, limited media attention, and modest expansion fees. Games were often played in half-empty arenas with little national buzz. Profitability was a constant question. Then everything changed. Viewership exploded. Jerseys sold out. Ticket prices surged. Media deals grew, and expansion fees skyrocketed. Nearly every positive shift can be traced directly to her impact. Yet instead of embracing that growth, some veterans respond with thinly disguised resentment and resistance. What they fail to understand is simple. Clark's success elevates everyone. More viewers mean higher salaries, better resources, and real negotiating power for the league. She's the catalyst they've been fighting for all along. And throughout it all, Clark has proven she's more than an elite player. She's a leader who understands influence, timing, and the long game. She doesn't chase controversy. She turns criticism into momentum. Fans recognize it. The numbers confirm it. And history is being written in real time.